Overthinking everything? How to make smart decisions in minutes. Have you ever found yourself caught in that loop of overthinking where you're endlessly weighing every possible outcome, fearing the consequences of making the wrong decision? You're not alone. It's something that we all struggle with at some point or another, whether it's in our personal lives or in the workplace. If you're a professional or a leader, you've probably felt the pressure of needing to make the perfect decision, sometimes even freezing in place as you try to figure out every angle. After all, research from Cornell University tells us that the average person makes about 35,000 decisions a day. Imagine how much pressure there is when you're juggling big decisions that could impact your career, your business, or your team. For high-level professionals, leaders, and decision makers, the need to make quick, strategic choices is even more pressing. Indecision can feel like a luxury, but the truth is that every moment spent in hesitation could be costing you time, resources, and opportunities. In fact, McKinsey & Company has shown that organizations led by executives who make fast, confident decisions are not only more efficient but also see better financial results. But here's the catch: speed doesn't mean recklessness. It's about finding a way to streamline your decision-making process, focusing on what truly matters, and then trusting yourself without second-guessing every move. Now, let's be honest, overthinking often feels like you're being cautious or in control. It tricks us into thinking that by analyzing every little detail, we're safeguarding ourselves against making a mistake. But in reality, overthinking can actually cloud our judgment. It leads to mental fatigue, lowers our confidence, and sometimes we end up making worse choices. When you're bogged down with too much information, it becomes harder to focus on what's truly important. That's when decision fatigue kicks in. Psychologists have found that as the day wears on, our ability to make good decisions tends to decline, especially when we waste energy on insignificant choices. The good news? You don't have to stay stuck in the cycle of overthinking. There are proven techniques that can help you simplify the decision-making process and allow you to make smarter, high-quality decisions in minutes. These are strategies used by the world's top executives, entrepreneurs, and military leaders. People who are faced with tough choices daily but don't have the luxury of overanalyzing everything. Are you with me? Welcome back. This is one point where leaders don't adapt to inflection points, they own them. So, if you're ready to make faster, smarter decisions without the overwhelm, let's dive into some practical techniques that can help you cut through the clutter and decide with confidence, even in high-pressure situations. The Pareto principle: focus on the 20% that drives 80% of results. You've probably heard of the Pareto principle before. It's the idea that 80% of results come from just 20% of your efforts. When making decisions, this concept can be a game changer. Instead of overanalyzing every little detail, focus on the small handful of factors that will have the biggest impact. According to a study by the Harvard Business Review, executives who focus on high-leverage decisions are 50% more efficient in their work. The key is to filter out the noise and zoom in on the variables that truly move the needle. Take the example of deciding whether to expand your business into a new market. Instead of drowning in endless reports, projections, and data points, narrow it down to just a few key factors, such as customer demand, competition, and financial feasibility. By cutting through the noise, you'll be able to make a decision that's faster, clearer, and far more effective. If you had only 5 minutes to decide whether to accept a lucrative business deal, which 3 factors would you prioritize? Drop your answer in the comments. The 2-minute rule: train your brain for quick decisions. A great technique for cutting through the decision-making fog is the 2-minute rule, made popular by David Allen's Getting Things Done (GTD) methodology. The rule is simple: if a decision or task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, just do it. But for bigger decisions, try setting a strict time limit to avoid endless deliberation. Studies show that setting tight time constraints boosts productivity by up to 30%. It forces your brain to hone in on what's important and stop overthinking. Here's how you can implement it. Next time you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, set a timer for just 5 minutes. Commit to making a decision within that window. The more you practice, the sharper and faster your decision-making instincts will become. What's the quickest important decision you've ever made, and how did it turn out? Share in the comments. Mental models: think like the world's best decision makers. Mental models are frameworks that help simplify complex decisions. The best decision makers use mental models to quickly eliminate unnecessary details and focus on what truly matters. Here are a few powerful ones. First principles thinking. Break problems down to their fundamental truths and build solutions from scratch. The Eisenhower Matrix. Prioritize tasks by urgency and importance so you're focused on what truly matters. Regret minimization framework. Ask yourself, will I regret this decision in 10 years? While these mental models provide clarity, sometimes you don't have the luxury of detailed frameworks. That's when your gut feeling comes into play. Pick one of these mental models and apply it to a decision you've been procrastinating on. What insights did you discover? Share your thoughts in the comments. Data versus intuition. When to trust your gut. We tend to think that data should always be our guiding star, but research from the University of Chicago shows that executives who rely on both data and intuition actually make better decisions 62% of the time. What? Because intuition is based on pattern recognition. Your brain is tapping into past experiences and subconscious knowledge. However, it's not always foolproof. The best strategy? Use intuition for quick, experience-based decisions and rely on data for high-risk, unfamiliar decisions. For instance, if you're hiring a new team member, your gut feeling might tell you if they're a cultural fit. But when it comes to making a multi-million-dollar investment, the data should take the lead. Have you ever ignored your gut and later regretted it? What happened? Share your story in the comments. The pre-mortem strategy: prevent failure before it happens. Most people do a post-mortem after a failure, but the smartest decision makers do a pre-mortem before they even make a decision. Here's how it works. Imagine it's 1 year from now and the decision you're considering failed. What went wrong? By reverse engineering the failure, you can identify potential pitfalls and make adjustments before you finalize your choice. A study in the Journal of Behavioral Decision Making found that companies using pre-mortems reduced failure rates by up to 30%. By anticipating challenges up front, you set yourself up for success instead of scrambling to fix things after the fact. Making decisions, whether in business or life, can be overwhelming at times. The initial concepts like the Pareto principle, the 2-minute rule, and mental models are all fantastic, but there are deeper strategies you can use to further sharpen your decision-making process. Let's dive deeper and take these concepts even further, exploring some advanced techniques and strategies to truly refine your decision-making and take action with confidence. Use the October 10th 10 rule. Frame your decision in time. Once you've identified the most important factors influencing your decision, whether it's the Pareto principle or a gut feeling, it's time to consider its long-term implications. The October 10th 10 rule is a framework designed by Susie Welch that asks you to consider the impact of a decision in 3 time frames: 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. This method helps bring clarity when weighing a decision, especially when emotions or immediate consequences cloud your judgment. For example, let's say you're deciding whether to launch a new product. You can ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision 10 minutes from now? Immediate relief or anxiety? How will I feel about it in 10 months? Will the effort pay off or will it feel like wasted time? How will I feel about it in 10 years? Is this move aligned with your long-term goals? By looking at decisions through multiple time lenses, you can avoid overvaluing short-term satisfaction and make choices that align with your future self. Apply the FOMO filter, assessing risks and opportunities. Fear of missing out, FOMO, is a powerful emotion. However, it can be a double-edged sword when it comes to decision-making. While it can drive us to take action, it can also lead to impulsive decisions and overcommitting. The next step in making sound decisions is to assess whether the FOMO you feel is valid or whether you are just falling victim to social pressures, trends, or feelings of scarcity. One way to filter FOMO out of your decision-making is by asking, if I don't take action now, will I truly miss out on a major opportunity, or will I have another chance? What separates reactive leaders from visionary ones? They don't just see inflection points, they weaponize them. Let's break down how. Often, our anxieties are more about the potential loss of control rather than real opportunity. Take a moment to slow down and consider whether FOMO is clouding your judgment. As you begin to move away from fear-based decisions, you naturally develop a clearer picture of the opportunity itself. This will help you move from reactive thinking to proactive, calculated decision-making. Use a devil's advocate approach, challenge your assumptions. Once you've identified your top priorities and considered the long-term impact, the next step is to ensure that you aren't overlooking potential risks or blind spots. This is where the devil's advocate technique comes into play. This involves intentionally questioning your decision or the decision-making process itself to ensure that you are not overlooking any major flaws. If you're deciding whether to expand into a new market, for example, ask yourself tough questions like, What are the potential downsides I'm not seeing? What are the reasons this could fail that I haven't considered? Am I too emotionally invested in this idea to see its flaws clearly? Taking a moment to actively poke holes in your decisions might feel uncomfortable, but this process will inevitably strengthen your final choice, ensuring that you are prepared for possible setbacks and can pivot if necessary. Sleep on it. Give your brain time to process. Often, we rush decisions in the heat of the moment, fearing that we may lose the opportunity if we delay. But in many cases, stepping away from a decision for a brief period can provide more clarity than making a rushed choice. By sleeping on it, you give your subconscious time to process and sort through information, and sometimes your brain works through complex issues while you're not consciously focused on them. This pause doesn't mean putting off a decision indefinitely. Rather, it's about giving yourself a buffer. Maybe a good night's sleep or taking a day to think it over allows you to come back with a clearer mind. You'll likely find that your perspective has shifted and that you're more confident in your decision when you return to it. If you're faced with a decision but feel emotionally drained or exhausted, take the time to restore your mental energy. Visualize the worst-case scenario. Preparation minimizes risk. It's easy to be paralyzed by the what-ifs of decision-making, especially when faced with high-stakes choices. Rather than avoiding these uncomfortable feelings, acknowledge them and prepare for the worst-case scenario. This is a proactive approach to risk management. If you can imagine the worst-case scenario and mentally prepare for it, you'll be much better equipped to handle it if it arises. For example, if you're launching a new product and worry that it could fail, visualize exactly what that failure would look like. Would it be a financial loss? A brand reputation hit? What's the worst that could happen? Once you've identified this, build contingency plans so that you're ready to pivot or recover if things don't go as planned. This mental preparation can significantly lower stress and improve confidence when making decisions. Leverage the 60-30-10 rule. Know when to let go. In decision-making, we often feel the pressure to make everything work perfectly, but there's wisdom in knowing when to settle. The 60-30-10 rule suggests that when you're faced with a decision, give yourself the permission to make the best choice you can based on available data, but don't let perfectionism paralyze you. Under this rule, 60% of your decisions will be good enough, offering solid value without being perfect. 30% will be above average, but they don't need to be flawless. 10% of your decisions will be extraordinary, but you don't need to hit it out of the park every time. By giving yourself permission to not always make perfect choices, you reduce the stress associated with decision-making and allow yourself to keep moving forward with confidence. Embrace iterative decision-making. Adjust as you go. Often, one of the greatest barriers to making a decision is the idea that everything has to be finalized in one go. In reality, decision-making doesn't need to be a one-time, all-or-nothing process. An iterative approach means making a decision, taking action, and continuously assessing the results. As you move forward, adjust your course as new information emerges. This is particularly useful when you're dealing with complex decisions or uncertain outcomes. Rather than trying to predict the future perfectly, you make incremental decisions and learn from each step. This method takes the pressure off of getting everything right from the start, tying it all together. As you move forward with these strategies, remember that decision-making is a skill that improves with practice. The Pareto principle, 2-minute rule, and mental models are only the beginning. By adding these deeper layers, you begin to see a clearer path, feel more confident in your choices, and reduce the unnecessary stress of overthinking. By using the October 10th 10 rule, challenging assumptions through devil's advocacy, taking time to sleep on it, and preparing for worst-case scenarios, you give yourself the tools to make smarter, more effective decisions. And when you embrace iterative decision-making and avoid perfectionism, you'll find yourself moving forward with greater ease and confidence. So, the next time you're stuck in a tough decision, give yourself the freedom to pause, reflect, and apply these principles. Your decision-making muscles will only grow stronger, and the impact of your choices will be far more powerful. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep trusting yourself. Your best decisions are ahead of you. Let's dive into some additional insight on how to use these decision-making strategies to your advantage, going beyond just the steps themselves. We'll explore the underlying principles and psychology of these techniques, and how you can make them work for you in practical, real-life situations. The psychology behind quick decisions. One of the core insights that underpins fast and effective decision-making is the psychology of cognitive overload. Our brains are constantly processing an overwhelming amount of information, and when faced with too many choices or too much data, we risk decision fatigue. The brain naturally seeks to minimize effort, so when we are overloaded, we might either freeze or make suboptimal decisions. Limiting choices, a key concept in both the 2-minute rule and the Pareto principle, can significantly help to overcome cognitive overload. By focusing only on the most relevant 20% of the information or options, you reduce the cognitive burden, making the decision process feel easier and quicker. When you recognize that too many choices can lead to less satisfaction and poor decisions, the art of narrowing down options and setting strict boundaries becomes crucial. Example: if you're making a hiring decision and you have 50 resumes to review, instead of analyzing every single one, use criteria that narrow down the field quickly. Focus on key qualities such as specific experience or required skills, and eliminate those who don't meet these basics before diving deeper into the remaining candidates. Decision-making in groups, harnessing collective wisdom. When making decisions in groups, it's easy for the process to become muddied by groupthink, where everyone agrees just to avoid conflict, or dominance bias, where the most vocal person steers the decision. To use decision-making frameworks to your advantage in group settings, the trick lies in encouraging diversity of thought and structured debate. Final thought: consistency is key. The most powerful aspect of these decision-making strategies is their ability to become ingrained in your decision-making culture over time. It's not just about using them for one-off decisions, it's about embedding them into your approach to how you think, how you act, and how you respond to challenges every single day. The more consistently you apply these strategies, the more natural they will become, transforming your decision-making process into something that feels automatic and effortless. Over time, you'll find yourself making better decisions faster, with greater confidence and less regret. The real advantage, then, is not just learning these strategies, but weaving them into your daily life in a way that makes decision-making feel like a natural extension of your thinking. Wrapping it all up, your decision-making superpower awaits. By integrating these techniques into your decision-making process, you'll start to see transformative results. You'll be able to white heavy checkmark cut through analysis paralysis and make high-quality decisions quickly. White heavy checkmark prioritize what truly matters without distractions. White heavy checkmark build a reliable system for handling both small and high-stakes decisions. White heavy checkmark minimize regret and failure by thinking ahead and taking proactive steps. With daily practice, these strategies will improve your confidence, clarity, and decision-making speed. Over time, they'll become habits that set you apart as a decisive, strategic leader. In conclusion, effective decision-making doesn't have to be a lengthy, stressful process. By using the right techniques, you can cut through the clutter, simplify complex choices, and make smarter decisions with confidence and clarity. The strategies we've discussed, the Pareto principle, the 2-minute rule, mental models, balancing data and intuition, and the premortem strategy, each offer a unique way to help you avoid overthinking, manage risks, and take decisive action, whether you're handling small tasks or high-stakes decisions. Remember, the goal isn't just speed, but smart, thoughtful action. By integrating these techniques into your daily decision-making process, you'll not only make faster, more informed choices, but you'll also build the habits of a strategic and confident decision-maker. The more you practice these methods, the more natural they will feel, and over time, they'll become second nature, empowering you to make decisions that lead to better outcomes in both your personal and professional life. So, take a step back, trust the process, and start applying these strategies today. Your future self will thank you for it. Which of these techniques will you use first? Drop your thoughts below. If today's insights redefine your next move, you're already ahead. This is 1 Point, where leaders turn moments into momentum. Subscribe, decide, lead.